Hello and welcome to India Tonight. I'm Shabani Gharat and along with me we have Jude Sunnit. Now in a rare post-midnight selfie video, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Jude, in fact has assured the protesting youth that there will be major reforms with respect to how paper leak cases are treated. He assured that Cabinet will approve a bill that will be tabled in the Parliament next week. Sources say Cabinet has approved the bill that will ensure stringent punishment to perpetrators of paper leak and delivery of justice within 3 months.
Right, and let's also remember, Shibani, that the government has in fact opened a channel for dialogue. In fact, Sonam Wangchuk himself has chosen to withdraw his hunger strike and also end his fast late last night. So these are perhaps signs of a waning agitation, or one might think that way at least. But the CJP says they will continue with the protests until Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan actually resigns. So is the government assurance and action enough to rehaul the education sector? We discuss it with our panel of guests tonight. Joining us from Chennai is Sumant C. Raman, political analyst, as is Surabhi Hodigere from the BJP, and Nikhil Jain, who is, of course, a political analyst. Surabhi, gentlemen, good to have you with us here on the show today. Sumant, let me start with you, so to speak. It's been a few days where we've seen to and fro with regard to where the protesters plan to go and what the government hopes to do with regard to not just calling the protests or hoping that it will end, but to actually assure some forward movement. Surely the government has now promised legislation, but the protesters want a resignation. Are we talking about two completely different things? And is a net result effect going to be that we could see a few more days of agitation until, like the students demand, the minister goes about resigning?
Look, Jude, I think it's very clear that the government will have to bite the bullet. Look, the kind of measures which are being spoken of are all routine administrative things. None of this is a drastic revamp. I mean, we've seen this is not the first paper leak. Again, in 2024, what happened? When the leak happened, various voices came. We are reforming this, we are changing that, we are shunting out a few officials. I mean, this is like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. I had posted this saying that, this is a massive crisis of confidence. What the protesters are asking for and the students are asking for is accountability. And accountability does not mean transferring the clerks and the peons in the office. You are not, somebody at the top must be held answerable. The education secretary transferring him, he's not even been suspended, mind you. So basically what they're saying is if he has done something wrong, he can continue to do the same wrong things at the Panchayati Raj ministry. I don't know what kind of logic that is. So how is this going to satisfy any of the protesters? Look, the bottom line is who is accountable. Now, I saw something very significant in an interview an hour ago, which was telecast on another channel with Abhijit Dipke. And he said very clearly that if Mr. Modi is not willing to let go of Mr. Pradhan, we will then have to start asking for his resignation. And I think that really is, look, how many slogans are being raised against Dharmendra Pradhan at any of the protests anywhere in India?
Right.
Hardly any. Most of the slogans are being raised against the Prime Minister.
Right.
And if he doesn't see the writing on the wall now, I don't know. There are two ways that they can deal with this. They can get Mr. Pradhan to resign, or they can crack down on the protesters, maybe tomorrow night or something, and bundle all of them off, take police action, beat the protesters, jail them, and so on. But how is that going to help? It's only going to make matters much worse.
Let Surabhi Hodigere answer a few questions over here. We will speak about the resignation part of Dharmendra Pradhan. But first, the fast-track court promised. Have you guys set up a specific timeline for setting up these fast-track courts in case of such a mishap happens in the days to come? And then, the FIRs filed against the students, will it be withdrawn immediately, or is it contingent on them ending the protest at Jantar Mantar? Let her answer that.
Thank you for those questions. First, I want to say that to Sumant sir, that sometimes complex policy problems have very boring administrative solutions. And what the students are asking for is reform. They're asking for reform. Yes, we have seen paper leaks in this country. We've seen it at the state level. We've seen it at the national level. We continue to see it. It's a systemic problem. Coaching center mafia is involved. Significant number of parents are involved. These are very disappointing parts of the system that many parties that have come before us have also had to address, but they have not addressed. What the Bharatiya Janata Party and specifically the Prime Minister's government has done is put in stringent law-related reforms as well as ensured that there is improvement in the delivery of the examination in itself. What we're saying now is that let us take it one step forward. Let us solve the problem. Sir, you might say that, minister resignation is being demanded by the protesters, but a lot of significant number of Gen Z in Bengaluru, where I am, across the country are saying we need to change this. It's not just the CJP.
About the reforms and about the steps taken, when will they start is what I wanted to ask you. If you can give us a timeline for that. And what about the FIRs against students? If you can give us an understanding on that as well.
Many of the reforms that we're talking about are, first and foremost, there's going to be new legislation that's going to be introduced in Parliament. As you all know, the legislation is introduced and then rules are that is the process of creating a new legislation. So those are not answers that I have at this moment right now, nor are the answers on everything has a process. All of the process will be followed, and that is a promise that the government has made that peaceful students who have protested will not be held culpable. Therefore, all of this will have to happen as per the process. But the important point, if you will allow me, I'll just conclude with that, is not just a matter of political gains or political, as Suman sir was saying that everybody's protesting against the Prime Minister. The loud voice coming from the young people, Gen Z particularly, is to solve the problem. And the government is doing exactly that. It is putting its head together to solve the problem, which it has done in the past as well. After the same situation was there in 2024 at the smaller level, it brought in the Radhakrishna Committee report. It accepted many recommendations. There was a new bill that was put through, increased criminality. All of these are solutions, and we are talking solutions.
In fact, let me go over to Nikhil next. Nikhil, you heard Surabhi there. One point that she made that quite caught my attention was the students want reform. And I absolutely agree, they do. But they also want a few other things. They want accountability that they've been talking about from day one. And that accountability, they believe the only natural outcome of that ask should be the minister's resignation. That's what they believe. Now, there are a few things that they also wanted, which the government was initially not willing to budge on, but they eventually have. For instance, they wanted to meet at a neutral location. And surely enough, the ministerial contingent met them at the Constitution Club. They wanted, or Sonam Wangchuk rather, wanted reassurance and assurance that no action will be taken against these students from a criminal perspective in terms of foisting of cases. The government has also given that assurance, based on which Mr. Wangchuk broke his fast. Do you feel this could only mean that the eventual outcome of pressing with these demands could, for all you know, despite the legislation, eventually lead to that much desired resignation of Mr. Pradhan, which the students want? Do you think this debate could possibly and logically only end there? Nikhil.
You first took to answer your second question. I don't think the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan is something that we're going to see, and the reason for that is quite simple. The moment Dharmendra Pradhan resigns, and there is a precedent set for accountability in this government, people are going to talk about ethanol and Gadkari and Puri. People are going to talk about the economy and Nirmala Sitharaman. People are going to talk about the police brutality and Amit Shah. People are going to talk about a whole host of issues, and a whole host of resignations will be sought, which is something that this government very clearly understands, which is why Rajnath Singh outlined in 2016 itself कि इस सरकार में इस्तीफे नहीं होते. Nobody resigns in the Modi government, no matter what rail accident happens, air accident happens, paper leak happens, economy goes to the toss, foreign policy goes to the toss. Nobody will ever resign. Number one. Number two, the students, when this protest started, I think it's very important for a lot of viewers to understand that this protest may have started and initiated with the Cockroach Janata Party, while there were other political players like the Congress Party, which were parallelly running their own protests, like the Chhatro Ki Goonj program and outreach that they were doing. But the initiation was with the CJP. Now the protest is not in the hands of only CJP. It is not in the hands of only Sonam Wangchuk. There is no single person who's running the protests that are happening across the country. It is not just Jantar Mantar. In fact, I'm sure you would have sent your reporters, even in Jantar Mantar, the protest that is happening between the barricades on the Jantar Mantar road is actually different from what is happening on Tolstoy Road, which is different from what is happening on Sansad Marg. In the Jantar Mantar, in the main protest spot near the stage in Jantar Mantar, people are asking for the resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan, and people are asking for the resignation of Narendra Modi also. When you go to Tolstoy Road, every single nara that you'll hear, it is not about Dharmendra Pradhan. It is about Narendra Modi. And that is why the government had to cave in to a certain extent. That is also why the government is now trying to make this conversation about reforms and not
Right.
accountability. However, the first demand was about accountability. And lastly, on the assurance given to Mr. Wangchuk that no charges would be pressed against students. That's absolutely fallacious. Just today evening, you have police detaining students who are trying to travel to the protest site 5 kilometers away.
Right.
At this point, they have not done anything illegal. At this point, they have not even breached BNS section 163 or what used to be 144. Why are they being detained? Just yesterday night, you had 20 students being detained in the Lodi Colony police station. Again,
Right.
mind you, Lodi Colony, not Sansad Marg, Tughlaq or anything. Lodi
Right.
Colony police station, they are detained. Lawyers go in, lawyers are attacked, lawyers are pushed around, and all of it is in video.
Right.
That is the attitude of the government. How do you really
Right,
expect them to take
right.
back the charges?
Let's
Just
go over
yesterday,
to
you had the
get-
NSA order come out.
Let's go over to get Sumant Raman's reaction and, analyze this. First of all, tell us, did the government underestimate this protest from the beginning? And now, government's refusal or Prime Minister's refusal to sack Dharmendra Pradhan and make him resign, does it seem as a show of strength or, in fact, does it signal strength or, his fear of appearing weak in front of the Janta?
No, I think that he sort of fears the opening of Pandora's box. And that, I think I agree with Nikhil, where, if one domino falls, then the other dominoes start to come down in quick succession. So I think that is something that is worrying him. Second, and very, very importantly, they grossly underestimated this. Let me give you an example. I talk of Tamil Nadu, where all of us, and I include myself as a political analyst, grossly underestimated youth power and social media power. The present government in Tamil Nadu has come to power exclusively by the support of the youth and social media. Nothing else. So I think that, to say that these are kids who are putting reels on Instagram, I think we are underestimating, and the government certainly underestimated them. And what I now fear for the BJP government and for Mr. Modi in particular is that the longer this goes on, however it ends, even assuming Pradhan stays, I think that Mr. Modi's image is going to be very seriously damaged. Look, a lot of Mr. Modi's aura has already gone. The way that he's being, converted into meme material, songs and videos are going viral about him. I think that is something which very often is more damaging than even protests which are run by opposition political parties. These are school and college kids who are putting out this kind of material. How many of them do you think are actually going to vote BJP? And how do you know they're not going to go back to their houses and tell their parents not to vote for BJP? So I think that if I were the government, it would certainly be in their interest to look at Mr. Pradhan's resignation. The longer they drag it out, I'm very, very sure that the damage that they're going to cause, not to Mr. Pradhan, all the damage from this is not going to affect Mr. Pradhan, it's going to affect Mr. Modi. And, if they can't see that and they think that this is the usual, see, they tried all the stuff, right? I mean,
Right.
these are Pakistan-backed people. China is backing them. They must be funded by anti-national elements, this, that. It didn't work.
Right.
Right.
Because people could see that these are ordinary students.
Sumant,
who are just asking
I'm
for
glad you bring up that
their
point
future
because I
not
really
to be
need to.
stolen from them.
Absolutely. I need to get Surabhi in on this. Surabhi, for the BJP, this is uncharted territory. Let's be fair. In the 12 years that this government has been in power, and handsome mandates, every election, by the way, perhaps not the last one to the extent of 2019, but the fact that you are right now in uncharted territory, such an uprising has not happened to the BJP at such a national level involving such an emotive issue like education and the youth. Sure, there were the farmer protests, there was the one rank, one pension movement, but the emotive element of it involving the youth has not quite happened like it is happening right now. How worried is the political establishment of the BJP really with all that's been happening over the last month?
Why was the farmers' issue not emotive enough? Why is the Bidadi issue happening across?
I mean, from a
Karnataka not
relatability
emotive?
standpoint, like
No, I
Sumant
don't
was
agree with
mentioning,
that.
this
I don't
involves
agree with
reels
that.
being made. This involves
Yes,
kids
that
getting
is a new
involved.
medium
This
of
involves
communication.
people talking
And let
about
me-
it simply because it
fair,
affects lives
fair,
every single
fair.
day. Surabhi, that's what I'm talking about. I do
Fair.
not mean to say it is not as emotive as the farmers' issue, but it is certainly a lot more relatable to the youth, and that perhaps makes it a tad emotive.
Let me, because we're speaking so much about young people and the fact that they're making reels and it's an Instagram related protest. Let me also remind everybody on this panel that there is an Instagram algorithm that tends to show you what you like the more or what you watch more. In the same way that there are people who are coming out and making reels about the fact that, they want a particular minister to resign or that they're unhappy. There are also people who are supporting the prime minister. There's also people who are saying that we need reform. There's also people having multiplicity of views. So, go outside of the Instagram feed that you are used to and look at all the other opinions as well. Yes, this has touched a nerve with young people. It has touched a nerve with young people who are dependent on the education system for economic mobility to go ahead in their lives. But there's also a plethora of people who want to see reforms, young people who want to see things move. And I want to say, that I don't
Surabhi,
feel that a
Surabhi,
prime minister...
so let me clarify. That means you are not that
please?
worried, Surabhi, because you don't think it involves the length and breadth of this country insofar as the youth's voice is concerned. You still think it's only a fraction of these voices, perhaps influenced by what the algorithm is showing them?
That is not what I not what I communicated.
I was just trying to clarify
What I said, this is a matter of grave importance because this is about the future of our country. We need young people to trust in the system. That is important. And the Prime Minister has made it amply clear that that is what we are trying to fix. My only point being that you cannot derive where there is a policy problem, you are trying to make it into a political
But, ma'am, the NEET paper leak issue happened...
May I please complete my point?
Right.
The Prime Minister has faced multiple such criticisms, and it is true that in governance, you do have ups and downs in such way. We will come out stronger with reform by fixing the problem, by looking at the problem, ensuring that we deliver on the solutions. This government is very, very sure and confident that that is what we're going to be working on. The Prime Minister, as when he was Chief Minister, as well as when he's been Prime Minister for the last 12 years, has faced multiple such criticisms. And if you go on to say that accountability...
What took the Prime Minister such a long time to come ahead and give that assurance to the students if it was such a critical issue for him?
It was already communicated through different ministers of this government. Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan has come out and spoken multiple times. This is also something that has been discussed widely. We have been asking for a discussion in Parliament. We've been okay with a discussion in Parliament for a long time as well. Today, it is touched a nerve. I agree with you that students are upset and they're asking for reform. They are not asking merely for, the way Mr. Sumant puts it, that everything is going to fall apart in a matter just because the people, the reels that he's watching is saying so. I don't think so. There's a lot of people who are asking very legitimate questions, and that's what we're engaging with.
1 minute, just one point.
Right.
You said you're trying to fix the problem. What about 2015? What about 2016? What about 2021? What about
2024?
I hear you.
2024 as well, sir. I will complete the list for you. That is exactly why we brought more stringent, legislation in place. We are going to, yes, and also you should be asking me one more question. Why have we not made it computer-based testing yet? Why have we not done the same reforms in JEE?
Listen, gentlemen,
you should be asking me these
debate,
questions and I will give you answers.
if I may,
but that
I'm sure
is
this
talking
debate
solutions.
can go on
Do
and
not
on.
tell me that the Prime Minister's popularity
Surabhi,
is
if I
decreasing.
may.
You don't
Surabhi.
have you can't arbitrate on that.
Surabhi, if I may, Sumant and Surabhi, if I may. I know this discussion can go on and on, but we do have some paucity of time. But I think the bottom line is rather simple. The fact is that the students have been demanding for a few set of measures for a while, one of which is that Dharmendra Pradhan resign. The BJP and the centre, to its credit, have promised some semblance of reform and legislation. Full credit to them for that. But one really wonders, should this continue? And if two different camps are asking for two different things, will the impasse continue? That's the question that we have to unfortunately leave this debate with. But that's the question that we're faced with, at least for the moment. So on that note, Sumant, Surabhi, Nikhil, thank you so much for joining us and breaking down some of these insights on the show today. Great speaking to you all, as always. Now, amid the CJP protests, the Home Ministry's cybercrime arm, that's the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, has ordered Microsoft subsidiary GitHub to remove Bluetooth-based messaging application Bitchat, an app developed by former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey. Now, the notice mentions risk of misuse of the app itself by anti-national elements, terrorist organizations, organized criminal groups, and cyber criminals. In fact, Sumita gets us more details on this.
That's right. As CJP protests intensify in the national capital, government has told GitHub to block Bitchat app. In fact, this order was issued by the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center that comes under the Ministry of Home Affairs. And in fact, Bitchat app is essentially a Bluetooth-based messaging application that was founded by Twitter founder and former CEO Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey shared this message on his Twitter handle. He said that the government of India does not like technologies like Bitchat, and he said that it wants this app to be taken down. Remember, it's important to also understand that this notice comes after several users who were participating in this protest, the Cockroach Janata Party protest at Jantar Mantar in New Delhi. They were observed using Bluetooth-based messaging apps after the government imposed temporary restrictions on internet services around the protest site and around central Delhi. And in fact, in that message, or rather in that notice that Jack Dorsey has posted on his social media platform, the government says that intelligent inputs have indicated that such decentralized communication platforms, they are capable of being exploited for coordinating unlawful assemblies, violent protests, dissemination of information and radicalization. And in fact, the notice that's been sent to GitHub, it actually mentions that the app violates certain sections of the IT Act, and that includes 84B, 84C, and there are a whole host of other sections that the government of India has stated in that particular notice.
Now moving on, ET Now's April 9th news break has been confirmed. Bain Capital has signed a deal to acquire UK's top vitamin maker, Vitabiotics. Anurag Joshi gets us more details on this.
Bain Capital has signed an agreement to acquire UK's top vitamin maker, Vitabiotics. The transaction includes acquisition of Mere Organics, Vitabiotics' Indian business, according to a Bain Capital press release. Bain Capital will also own Vitabiotics' operations in Africa, including in Egypt. On April 9, ET Now broke the story about Bain Capital being among the three bidders for acquiring Vitabiotics, the other two being TPG and EQT, all three private equity companies. The investment to acquire Vitabiotics will be led by Bain Capital's Asia private equity team. And Vitabiotics is a global nutraceutical and wellness products company controlled by Indian origin Lalwani family who are based in the UK. And the offerings include Wellman, Wellwoman and Hair Folic. The company markets health supplements and wellness products in India via Mere Organics. It was founded in 1971 by Kartar Lalwani, whose son Tej Lalwani is currently the group CEO. On the completion of the transaction, Kartar Lalwani will assume the role of chairman emeritus of the company.
Meanwhile, in news from international trade, the US has imposed a fresh 10% tariff on imports from India under Section 301, citing concerns over forced labor in global supply chains. In fact, India was initially considered for a 12.5% tariff, but secured the lower rate after adopting measures to prohibit imports made using forced labor. These tariffs are part of action against 60 economies and come even as India and the US continue negotiations on an interim trade agreement. Let's listen into the MEA's reaction over this new tariff.
We have noted the announcement. This is 301 enforcement action, as you know, and initiated after the Supreme Court, the US Supreme Court ruling on the tariff issue, which came, I think, in February. We have made our position clear on this subject. Our talks on the bilateral trade agreement with the US side continues with a view to concluding the BTA at an early date.
Now, MEA has taken a tough stance. In fact, amid reports of Chinese projects in Jammu and Kashmir, MEA said China has been in illegal occupation in the region and reiterated that India does not violate China's sovereignty in any matter.
Yes, External Affairs Minister said that when it comes to sovereignty issues, it is actually India that should be and is raising them. India does not violate China's sovereignty in any manner and has been consistent. but China is in illegal occupation of Indian territories in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh since 1963, where India's right is officially acknowledged even by China. Also, there are Chinese projects on territories in Jammu and Kashmir that belong to India, and we object to that.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on India Tonight. Thanks so much for watching. From Shibani and myself, it's goodbye from here in our Mumbai studios. But you keep watching ET Now because we'll have more on the other side. Thanks so much for tuning in.